So it's not for kids.
I've watched the first 45 odd minutes of the Scott Pilgrim movie, I think maybe 8 times, because at school, whenever it was a half day, because sometimes, school would end a touch early, like at the end of half term, or, we'd done all our exams and there was nothing else to do in terms of like preparing us because next year's work began next year. Oftentimes we just they'd roll the TV in, they'd stick a DVD in the DVD player, and we'd watch something, and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World was a fan favorite of the kids. And so, yeah, I watched the first 45 minutes of that movie probably about 5 times at school. And I think, unfortunately, it has poisoned my desire to watch it ever again. I've got no idea if it holds up as an actual piece of media. And I think, unfortunately, the last gasp of it as an icon in the zeitgeist has for me been a lot of my friends' ironic love for this weird, I'm pretty sure it's a sincere incel track called Scott Pilgrim Ruined an Entire Generation of Women.
Oh, no, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That comes on the party playlist all the time. People love that shit.
Wait, is that like a song? I'm not familiar.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it is sincere.
Yeah, no, yeah, we assumed so. Like, if something is that funny, it has to be because it is made with the intention of it not being funny. And deep. It's like, watching clips from the Super Bowl, the All-American halftime show, and you've got people being really...
the Kid Rock thing.
Yeah. It's like people sincerely believing that what they are experiencing and curating is some kind of high art, some kind of, genuine, sensational entertainment, and it is just a 50-year-old man failing to lip sync to his own song and jumping around the stage as if his shoes are very hot. It's such fun. So yeah, we do love a terrible, awful, shitty song. We just make sure that we download an MP3 of it, YouTube to MP3 downloader, so we don't give the person any ad revenue whilst we're bumping. So unfortunately, I think that is my biggest connection to Scott Pilgrim now, is the song about how I really wanted to bang Ramona Flowers, the character, and now I'm sad.
I think the film has probably held up better than the comics.
It's aged quite a bit, though.
What is the issue with the comics? Because I've never read them.
Well, that's the thing that made me want to bring it up, is I've been rereading them, and I'm reading them now. The most glaring issue that I'm finding is that the motivations that seemingly every female character has to be involved in the story at all are paper thin. I don't understand why Scott is so desirable that Envy, Ramona, and Knives all have feelings for him, even after he has broken up with them. It drives me nuts. I'm surprised at how much I dislike Scott Pilgrim, because a lot of people point out that Scott is meant to be sort of an asshat, kind of unlikable, not exactly incel behavior, but he's just literally a loser, and he's supposed to kind of grow up through the story. But volume 2 in particular, Kenny, I read volume 1, and it's such a close adaptation of the first half of the movie. It felt very familiar, and I was I guess I was just getting nostalgia blasted. But then volume 2 diverges quite a bit from what you see in the film, and I was just this is where the story went. This is so dumb. I'm surprised, I guess, how much I'm disliking it.
Maybe, who knows? Maybe Scott Pilgrim just dick game that good. Maybe Scott Pilgrim is a fantastic chef, and it's just not shown on screen.
No, actually, his chef skills are shown. You have you might be onto something. Yeah, Ramona literally is you chef. Can cook, and he's yeah.
I'm very much with Tom here. I will just say, as somebody that tried to justify it for a little bit, just to be completely honest. The devil's advocate argument is that the way that Scott is presented is as an unreliable narrator of sorts, in that like this is a very narcissistic view of how everyone likes him from his perspective, even though it's played in the third person. Like in the sixth book, he has like a heart to heart with one of the characters who's like, it might have been the fifth book, of just like, hey, you think it was all peaches and cream, but there was like a lot of moments where you were just a total ass, and also we weren't that into you. So I don't know, maybe you'll feel better about it later. I will say though, I'm with you, Tom. I'm just trying to present what is the kind of run-of-the-mill Reddit response to whether or not Scott Pilgrim is problematic. Definitely not my position.
I'm so glad that in the year of our Lord 2026, we're having conversations about if Scott Pilgrim is a problematic text. Good Lord.
I was gonna say,
discourse does not change. Holy moly.
Yeah, it feels almost overdue for that kind of 3-hour-long YouTube video, H-Bomber guy style, like, you know, reanalyzing Scott Pilgrim.
Surely he's got better things to do. I have to hope. Surely. Like, I have better things to do, and I'm me.
And you're here.
And I'm here. Thanks for having me on the show. What's the show called again?
Thank you for coming. Yeah, we should probably do an intro at some point. That sounds like a good idea.
We really nailed that.
Spice. Who are you? Who do you think you are?
Running around leaving scars, collecting your jar of hearts, tearing love apart. Hello, everybody. I'm Spice8Rack. I am a Magic the Gathering and politics and philosophy, I guess, YouTuber. I make videos about the game's lore. I make videos about analyzing how its game mechanics intersect with its own narrative, but also how our real world politics and philosophy and history indeed goes into or impacts and influences the creation of this game, and what that interpretation within this game space says both about how the designers appreciate that element of our history or those elements of our politics, but also how sort of like that unconsciously gets regurgitated and how culture is reflected within these pieces of cardboard. And it's also 6:30 in the morning, and I haven't been up this early for work since probably the pandemic.
If you are indifferent to Magic, I still highly recommend watching Spice's videos. They are just so entertaining, so funny, and so much more than simply a Magic video. First of all, you don't need a lot of context because a lot is covered. And then on top of that, it runs the gamut. You go from like the lore, the setting, to examining our socio-political climate, going into interesting facts and bits that are just humorous. So,
oh, thank you. I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, there's something special about what you do that is different from anything that's out there.
Oh, you charming pricks.
We're just buttering you up so that later on we can really talk the real shit, you know?
Consider me lathered, baby. I'm covered in margarine right now. Bless you.
Welcome to Shelf Stable, a podcast celebrating board games that have stood the test of time. 22 minutes in. I'm your host, Kenny Katayama.
We've done worse. I'm the other host, Tom Bowers, and today the feature topic is being bad at games with Spice8Rack.
I'm so glad that I've been invited on for this one.
But before we talk about that, let's just get into some of the things that Spice has been playing recently. But actually, before we talk about that, Kenny, I think you have a little bit of a bit for us to do.
We have to know.
I have long lived to experience a Nardwuar moment. I'm on tenterhooks.
Here we go. Favorite bookstore in Bath?
Mr. B's Emporium of Reading Delights. It is a beautiful, beautiful little bookshop in an alleyway next to, it used to be next to a cheesemonger's, but the cheesemonger's moved now. So it's next to a tapas place. But it is this gorgeous, if I can sort of take you through a quick mental tour of the
let's do
shop.
it.
You walk in, immediately you're surrounded by the fiction and the literature. It's a very like pokey place. There's not a huge amount of moving about in each room. The bookshop is quite big, but each room is reasonably small until you get to the board game section, which I will end the tour on. But as you're walking through the ground floor, you get to like a big bathtub because it's a shop in Bath, which is the city that I used to live in, and I grew up in the area of. And in that like Bath, you've got, it's full of books in itself, but there's, you've got all your classics in terms of literature, contemporary fiction, but also, your Draculas and your Terry Pratchett's and the stuff. And then you have an upstairs, which is full of travel writing and cookbooks and how-to guides. And I remember spending a lot of time, especially directly after Queen's Gambit came out, buying as many books about how to play chess as I could. Because I wanted to get really into chess, and I've managed to do that this year, which I'm very excited about.
Nice, you and Tom.
We should be playing whilst we're talking.
Yeah.
That's gonna be hell for me. Please no.
Just intercutting like with analysis of board games. Knight to F5, you complete bellend. What are you doing?
It's like, oh fuck the bishop. All the way from across the board.
But then you've got a little basement of the shop, which has got all the philosophy and economics and politics and history section. Love that. At the end of like 2023, they had a section specifically on Palestine, which is fantastic. And I love that has been consistently updated and curated. And then finally, in the last section, you've got the kids section, which is the most sort of sprawling part of the shop. Kids books from 0 to 3 year olds, and then sort of YA fiction with this beautiful wooden tree right in the middle of the space where you can sit down with your wee bab, and there's story time that one of the booksellers does every now and again for the kids. And then you walk into the board game section, which is just lousy with everything from your classics, your cheating moths, your glooms, all these little fun card games that you just stick in your pocket and take traveling, and then the bigger stuff, like pretty sure they had Twilight Imperium and stuff like that in the windows. The one that's like an alien style hunting asymmetrical.
Nemesis.
Nemesis, that's the one. Big boxes and small boxes. It was, in fact, that was the shop that I saw the Night Cage in. The first time, but this, easily the best bookshop in Bath. I wouldn't recommend anyone shop anywhere else. I adore it.
What was it called again?
Mr. B's Emporium of Reading Delights.
While we're on the topic of books, you've shared your book holster in the past. What book are you currently holding in your book holster? What book do you have armed?
I love my book holster. My book holster makes me so happy. Whenever you just need to have like a quick draw citation, you just lock and load. It's perfect. At the moment in my book holster, I am reading Monsters by Claire Dedera. It's a piece about what we do with great art made by terrible people. So it's at the moment I'm about a chapter and a half through, and most of it has been very much like, Roman Polanski does suck and is awful, and God, I wish I could watch Rosemary's Baby without giving him any money, or without like supporting or condoning the stuff that he created, that kind of stuff, which is it's a very like relatable feeling. I'm pretty sure that like all of us have, especially like. In the wake of like some particular disappointments, like Neil Gaiman, for example, I'm sure all of us have like texts, be them piece of art, piece of music, films or books that we've connected with that have turned out to be penned and authored by absolute scumbags. But like we're beginning to like creep into a bit more of like a philosophical discussion about why it is that we even require or feel the need for the people who make art to be good people, in like not in the same way that like we wouldn't expect like the cashier at the grocers that we go to like have have perfect politics in a way that we would for the people whose music we listen to. So so we're getting into like a bit more of a, but why do we want that? And what does it mean that we want that and all that stuff, which is, I jury's still out as to whether or not the book's any good. I am only a chapter and a half way through, but I had a conversation with a friend about it recently. And the way that she put it, which I found particularly interesting, is that like this conversation is much like the trolley problem, in that it doesn't have necessarily have a solution. It's just where you draw the line and how you interface with good art made by bad people is the core of the question, is the crux of the question, right? There's not like well, X happened, so you should do Y. It's how you answer it is the point of the question being asked. Right. So like where individuals draw the line. I can excuse fraud, but I can't excuse sexism, for example. Like, so-and-so didn't pay their taxes, or like has an offshore account. That's awful and they shouldn't do that, but I'm not going to stop like watching their movies. Oh, so-and-so was uncovered to have like a bunch of racist tweets in the past. Well, I'm never going to listen to their music again. Like where you draw the line is like the crux of it. That's what is currently locked into my book holster. Previous to now, it has been complete works of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Previous to that, it had been Liberalism by Losordo, who is a phenomenally well-read Italian, or was a phenomenally well-read Italian writer.
Yeah, he stopped reading, though.
He stopped reading mainly because he died, but which does hamper the book club. It must be said.
It's challenging.
It's really difficult. Not a lot of feedback from a corpse. But I love my book holster. One of the best Etsy purchases I ever made in my life.
Spice, 4.5-minute poem at the UK National Poetry Slam Championship Finals.
I know who you have been asking questions to. Bloody hell.
What are you talking about? I just know this.
Sure. So for those that are aware, I used to, back in the day, in university and as part of my master's, I was a performance poet. I performed poetry. I did slam poetry. My angle was like comedy poetry. As I sort of developed, I began writing more traditional poetry in terms of like, heavy feelings and difficult syllables. Similes. There we go. I won my way into the National Slam Championship at Royal Albert Hall in London back in, I want to say that was like 2017 or maybe 2018. I can't remember now, but like almost a decade ago, which is a fact I'm going to just not engage with. So for those of you who don't know, slam poetry, at least in the UK, there's a hard 3-minute time limit on your poem. And they do that because too much poetry will make you sad. You have to like condense your work to, and some people like really push up to the 3 minutes because they want to try and get as much of a poem in as possible. And if you perform something short, it might not last in someone's head as much. And like there's a lot of storytelling that goes on in slam poetry. So I made it past the prelims and into the semi-finals. The first one I performed was a poem about how I want to have sex with Sonic the Hedgehog. And that went down well, nice. Which maybe says something to the quality of the crop of poets that year. And then for the semi-finals, I performed a brand new piece that I hadn't ever performed before called Q. And it was a short piece, well, I thought a short piece about being trapped in a queue and like slowly going mad because like no one's moving, I've got places to be, and all I'm doing is staring at the back of this person's head and like slowly falling in love with the person in front of you because you're so delirious that the queue isn't moving. That was the central conceit of it. And the fun element of the poem was that normally you're facing the audience and you're like talking to them. I took the mic stand and I stood perpendicular to the audience. So I was performing to the backstage effectively and not looking over it to them once. And I loved performing that piece. And I ended up turning that piece into a full like hour show that I performed right before lockdown. And I was going to be touring it around the UK, and then lockdown hit. And I haven't touched it since.
Oh, no.
That piece, like everyone loved it. People were yucking it up. They were laughing. I had to like pause for a really long amount of time during it because there was just like huge laughter breaks, which was, hugely beneficial. But then when I came down and sat down, I thought, that went well. And when they did the scoring for that round, I was like dead last, and everyone in the audience went, "What? What happened?" And what occurs is that for every 10 seconds you go above 3 minutes, they deduct a point off your final score. and I went a full minute and a half, so 90 seconds,
no.
so 9 points. And there are 3 judges, and they mark it out of 10. So I got 3 9s minus 9. So I got 18 points out, like dead last.
Oh. It sounds like a Taskmaster challenge where like
Oh my God, yes.
the fastest time and then the reveal. Yeah.
I loved that piece. I genuinely did. And as I said, I turned it into a full hour thing. I've started getting back into script writing lately, because I do a lot of script writing, obviously, for the channel, but I want to get back into it for theatre, because darling, I love the theatre. Maybe I will explore it. Maybe that would be my 2026.
I got a magic one for you. Has there been a commander recently who's really caught your imagination or inspired you the way that Shirei Shizo's Caretaker did?
So Shirei was my very first commander. She had been my commander for... God, I started playing in 2014. So, like, now that is over a decade. I actually have got a new commander. I built a new deck maybe 2 weeks ago. Abigail, Eloquent First Year, from the latest Lorwyn set, which I wasn't expecting. I wanted to build a deck from, like, this set, because I was like, love Lorwyn. I'm writing a script about the set now, and I'm not going to talk too much about it because I want to save my thoughts and save my analysis for that video. But Abigail is a Strixhaven student, so not actually from the plane of Lorwyn, who's in Lorwyn for narrative reasons. And she's like a 2-mana 1/1 that when she enters, you remove all of the rules text from a creature on the battlefield, and you put a flying first strike and lifelink counter on them. So you turn an opponent's like mana dork into a pretty like hefty attacker, but like, if you put that on a like an Elvish Mystic or a Llanowar Elves or something, your opponent isn't going to be happy that, oh, my mana dork has flying first strike and lifelink. They're going to be unhappy that, oh, I've just lost green mana. That sucks. So she's like controlling in that aspect, but also she means that I can play all of the like really bad mono black creatures that exist out there that are like decaying pterosaur or whatever it's called,
that's
like
Yargle.
Like Yargle, because like Yargle is a 9/3 for 4 mana, which is pretty decent, but obviously like 3, it doesn't have any keywords on it. It's 3 toughness, so like it dies to a light breeze. You can very rarely attack in unless you've built your entire deck around like giving Yargle evasion. Abigail does that, gives Yargle flying first strike and lifelink, and immediately Yargle becomes a huge threat as a result. So, like, and I've always loved big bad creatures. Desecration Demon, obviously Abyssal Persecutor, which is, I think, a card that I've signed a number of times because of how much it messed me up on that one episode of Shuffle Up and Play, which is a 6 mana, 4 mana 6/6, which says you can't win the game and your opponents can't lose the game. Abigail could stop that from happening, and each time that does occur, I do feel like a little bit of my soul gets healed. So I love her. I truly love her. Like I also love her because she's a blink deck where your turns don't last for 20 minutes.
I love the vision of turning a bunch of black creatures that are normally not very powerful into ridiculously oversized Baneslayer angels.
I see the vision. So fun.
Now I'm looking at EDH-Rec. Probably not where I should be.
You're playing a game of chess, you're looking at EDH, and you're having this conversation at the same time. This is good for me.
Yeah.
Catch me off guard. I'm doing 12 things at once.
Is there any sort of success story that you want to platform with Acorn here?
Oh, goddamn. Yes. So, for those of you unaware, Acorn is a community union. So, the same way you've got a workplace union, looks after your rights in your workplace. Acorn, as a community union, looks after your rights in the community. So if you have concerns about, for example, local taxes going up, council taxes as it is in the UK, or if you are wanting to petition the council for example, like reopening public toilets, which a lot of them were closed during lockdown as sort of like a public safety issue and were never reopened. Or if you've got like a housing issue, if your landlord's being a prick, they're not doing repairs, they've pushed your rent up that you think is unfair, they're trying to evict you, etc. You get in touch with Acorn, you become a member. It's a union as opposed to like a charity, so it's like, it's members looking after members, and we sort shit out. We recently actually just heard that the council are finally like funding the reopening of public toilets to the tune of just over £250,000 or just over or just under £250,000, which is fantastic. That was a campaign that we were fighting back in like 21. So I'm glad to see that it's finally coming to fruition. In terms of the actual like big explosive fun things that we have done recently, at the moment our national campaign Bailiff Free Britain, which we have bailiffs here in the UK, debt collectors, effectively, who if you've reneged on payments, if you've missed rent, if you've missed council tax, if you've got a parking ticket, stuff like that, and you haven't paid it for whatever reason, most of the time it's because you can't afford to pay it or because you accidentally missed a payment, and then the punishment for missing a payment is a hefty fine on top of the payment, which just makes sense because if you haven't paid X, surely you'll pay X plus 200. Bailiffs will come around, knock at your door, and will threaten to steal your stuff. We'll take your TV, we'll take your car.
Like literally the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Yes.
As an organization.
No, 100%. Yeah. Bailiffs find their origins in that like era of British history. It is like a medieval practice where they would just, go around, well, you haven't paid tuppence, so we're going to beat you up, or we're going to like take your loom or what have you. The year of our Lord 2026, we've got, bailiffs who have group chats where they openly talk about how, well, when we take things from people, we don't take like their TV because it's a bit cumbersome. We don't take their gaming consoles. What we aim for is we take things that we think are precious to the person. So we take jewelry that is in a drawer, or we take framed photographs that look like it could be made of silver, because that stuff the person is going to be more upset by, more bothered by, more traumatized at losing, and are going to pay up as a result. And this is just like an open tactic that many, many bailiffs talk about. They are evil, violent bullies, and our national campaign is to try and make Britain a bailiff-free nation, effectively pushing for the abolition of such a disgusting
That's great.
I was about to say profession. It's not a job. It's just where you go if you are an evil bastard, but you don't have the ability to do all of the written tests that you have to do to become a police officer. A lot of disgraced ex-cops become bailiffs. That's just a fact that exists in the ether that people can join up the dots there together. We did an action at Bristol City Council. I want to say maybe in September or August. We were wanting to push the council to listen to us and to take our demand seriously on reducing the use of bailiffs for Bristol's vulnerable people. So if you're on disability benefits, job seekers allowance, if you're on the council tax reduction scheme, which is for vulnerable Bristol residents, low income people, disabled people, carers, etc., that you would just be exempt from bailiff visits, because we've got a lot of our members are these vulnerable people who join because they're worried that they're going to be taken advantage of by the council, by their landlords. And these people, the council had said, we're not going to be sending bailiffs to their door. Bailiffs kept showing up at these people's doors. We wanted the council to take us seriously. So we got en masse. We had about, I think, 40 of our members all showed up for this action. Went to the council chambers. We pinned wanted posters on the doors with the leader of the council, a man called Tony Dyer, in that sort of medieval Sheriff of Nottingham style font, tea stained the paper and all of that. And we had Sir Acorn, who is a member of ours, who just so happened to own a full set of plate metal armor, turning up and reading a medieval scroll and literally throwing down the gauntlet at the council chambers in this big sort of theatrical stunt. that like made the front pages of the papers and actually got the council to. We actually got, as a result, like in the room with the council, and they were like, okay, let's have a conversation and let's like make some promises and let's make some commitments. And that's all finally sort of coming to fruition now. But like that was such a fun start. That's all over like our social media pages. I'd highly recommend people go check out the Acorn Bristol like Instagram and the such. It's unfortunately I was only part of the planning process of that. I didn't go to that event, but seeing that event and also seeing all of the wonderful things that the union does genuinely fills me with so much bloody happiness.
I got one more for you, Spice. Hopefully This is a fun one. Dark Scale lives.
Fuck you. Eat shit. Fuck off. Oh, I know who you've been talking to. I'm going to have a fucking conversation with her in a bit. You bastard. There, fucking hell. Very, very simple. Back in university was the first place that I got into playing D&D. I say D&D, sorry, as the umbrella term, TTRPGs.
Right.
I ran a game of Apocalypse World in my last year of school in A-levels, and then at university, joined the Board Game Society and the D&D Society. I didn't play a huge amount of D&D in those societies, did a couple of one-shots, but I did make a lot of friends with people who loved D&D. And one of these games, one of the first one-shots that I played, I encountered a lizard folk by the name of Darkscale. I took a disliking to him, and I can't even remember if he turned out to be a villain or whether or not I attempted to kill him and could literally not land a single hit. And it's just like an NPC. This wasn't secretly the big bad or anything like that.
Right.
It was just some guy that I took a disliking to, or my character took a disliking to, and I just kept rolling poorly. And I derailed the entire evening by everyone wanted to go and do X, Y, and Z. It's we need to. There was this mystery that happened in the inn, and then those people would have their 40-minute scene, and then the DM would turn to me exasperatedly and go, "And what is it that you're doing?" And I say, "Oh, well, I'm still chasing Darkscale," and I'd left the town, and Darkscale had gotten on a horse. The DM was obviously trying to be "And this character is gone now, and you can move on." No, I wasn't letting it go. I didn't manage to kill him throughout the entire game. It wrapped up with him escaping through a portal into hell, thus confirming to me that he was some kind of villain. Now I'm thinking about it. Every single time that group of friends and I have played any kind of D&D together, regardless of if I'm playing the same character or not, there was always tale of this lizard man by the name of Darkscale. And I am a glutton for punishment, and I am entirely predictable, and I will, as a result, just go out of my way to find this man and finally kill him, because I feel like unless I kill him in a game, I will not actually be rid of the memory of this beast. And I don't even know what he did to annoy me. That's the fuck of it. He's just some guy. He's just some fucking guy. And anyway. So Darkscale lives. Darkscale lives.
I hope that was fun.
That was very good.
Let's jump. Games you've played recently, or games you've just been thinking about.
Well, I'm always thinking about King's Dilemma. I think I wake up, I see it on my shelf, I go, one day, baby, one day we'll get back to it. And then I go about my day. Legacy games have always been a fascination of mine. I love the conceit of a campaign as a forever DM. I love the idea of things being left in a state that have an impact on your future returns to that state.
Lorenzo Silva coming up again, Tom. We recently talked about one of the designers of King's Dilemma in a different context. And just seems like their games are showing up all over the place in ways that we didn't expect.
Good old Lorenzo. I do adore King's Dilemma mainly because roleplay intersects with mechanics in a very natural way. For those of you who don't know, the conceit of the game is that you are playing as the advisors to a king of a fictional kingdom that has law, that has a map, all of this stuff. And problems for the kingdom are coming up. And you as the advisors are making a cumulative democratic decision about which option you go for. Usually option A or option B. And very rarely are the options the good one and the bad one. It's murky. It's there's a village that has discovered a witch, and they are asking for permission to like execute her. And you, as the unit, are either faced with, well, we're not going to kill another human being. That's the wrong thing to do. But then there's additional law on the cards of like, well, the witch has been suspected of just like murdering people. Like, she turned up in the village and suddenly kids started disappearing and they don't know where they're going. And they don't really have a huge amount of proof. But this is, a pseudo fantasy world with a little bit of light magic in it. So she could be a witch, and whatever decision you make then leads you down a narrative path. Is like fighting fantasy books where you if you picked option A, turn to page 94. It's if you picked option A, open envelope 94. And then a bunch of cards get shuffled into the main deck that you're drawing these situations from, and it pushes the entire kingdom in this narrative direction. And the characters that you end up playing between each game is a new generation of advisors. At the start of the first session, the king is alive and the kingdom is like happy. At the end of it, the king has been deposed or the king is dead. And whoever won that round, whoever got the most points when it comes to like decision making, whoever's like marked off the most things on the sheet, that on their personal sheet about what their clan's aims are, like these broad existential notions about we want the kingdom to be prosperous, or we want the kingdom to be more military or militaristic. Whoever's marked off the most in the law, their scion has become like the new ruler. And then in the next session, your descendants are the new advisors to the new king, and then the game continues as such. And I adore it. I truly, truly adore it. I think that it's one of the most interesting legacy games to play. It doesn't take a huge amount of setup. There's not a huge amount of like things you have to remember from last time. If anything, sometimes it's funnier to have a huge break from playing the game because you come back as like advisors who don't really know what's going on, which feels very apt for, if we consider, modern bureaucracies of like people who get put in roles being like, I'm going to fix the system. Yeah, I'm going to like, this is a corrupt, drain the swamp, all that. And then they turn up and go, right, so who is anyone and what are like the basic building blocks of how my job operates? And then they flail about for 2.5 years and then resign in disgrace. And you can roleplay that. And you can roleplay that with your own, like, kind of like, oh, I'm supposed to be making decisions about a kingdom. I forgot. We're at war. Why are we at war? Shit. It's probably to do with the people in the mountains. Okay, we'll murder the people in the mountains. Oh, wait, no. They were actually allied with us from a previous thing. Oh, I forgot about that treaty. Shit. It's great. Oh, I love the game. It's, it's fantastic.
I'm sleeping on this one. Lorenzo Silva, knocking it out of the park, 3 for 3, I think.
Yeah, this is one I've heard in passing. I think at the time we were playing another legacy game, so I didn't end up grabbing it, but I was fascinated with this idea of like continuously shaping it and having almost like a lineage or a cycling of people being the influencer. It's almost reminiscent, or I guess an interesting parallel to this other game called Oath. Although Oath is much more mechanical. Yeah.
Yes. Letter games joint, isn't it? Same like Root and Ahoy and stuff, right?
Yeah. King's Dilemma is much more narrative based, where you're taking these explicit decisions, whereas like Oath is like they manifest themselves via the actions that you take. Sounds like we got another one to play, Tom.
Adding it to the list.
Adding it, baby.
It's funny because I'm looking at like Lorenzo Silva's list of games in general, and King's Dilemma is first of all, like the highest ranked of all of his games. But then everything else they've designed is Potion Explosion and Railroad Inc. Like are
Railroad. Lorenzo made Railroad Inc. too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
man. Railroad Inc. is. And I mean, like, I do want to talk more about King's Dilemma, but like, railroading. Whenever I travel, I bring railroading with me, and I love going on trains and playing the train game on the train. The amount of jealous looks I get. Oh, people are mad that they didn't bring their copy of Railroading on the train with them. I swear down.
Shall we move to our main topic, Tom? You wanna lead us in?
We're going to somehow naturally edit this all out so that I sound really cool and we Just get right into the main
Tom's
topic
warming up
of
here.
this week's episode. The real meat and potatoes of the show. The part of the episode that people come back week after week to listen to. And that's whatever we've arbitrarily decided at the top that is we're going to be discussing. And this week, that's being bad at board games. No, this is not us just looking at our history of our logged plays and talking about what went wrong at every step. Although some of that might be in here. We're just talking about what the joy of being bad at games is. Where's the fun when you suck, maybe?
Thanks to John for the topic. So when we say bad, I mean, we don't mean like not understanding the rules or being a jerk. We mean like not doing well at the game.
Why it's good to call your friends an asshole as you're playing games.
Why cheating is fun.
This is where we gatekeep absolutely the board game community.
I think we mean like not doing well at the game based on how it's supposed to be played, kind of thing.
For sure.
Would you consider yourself bad at games, Spice, in a general sense, or good, or in the middle, or like?
So here's the thing. I can be a really sore loser. And I think that it really depends on the system that I am playing and whether or not I feel like my loss is due to me making a mistake or the game system punishing me for like having a plan. And like, obviously, you're playing with multiple people. If you make a plan and your plan ends up not coming to fruition, like there were moments in the construction of the plan that you should have pivoted, right? Like that's always the case. If you start drafting like red and green in like Magic Limited, and then you get past no green cards on your left, maybe you take that as a sign of like, okay, I focus red, maybe I pick up some green next time, but like I should pick up another color just in case. And if you just pig-headedly stick to that original plan, you only have yourself to blame if you don't get any good cards.
Right.
There's always a moment where like it is your fault that you didn't do something, whether or not it feels like it's your fault or whether or not it feels like, well, I really had nothing I could have done. That's like where it goes from like, it's fun to feel like you're failing the game. It's fun to be bad at a game because you're still learning. Or in the case of like King's Dilemma, being bad and messing up is actually a great thing that you can do for not only for like the moment that you're playing the game, but also for the future. I've got a particular story about that game locked in my head already. There's like that angle of it. And then there's the angle of it of, I don't feel like I'm failing the game. I feel like the game is failing me in this moment. And that's a really rotten feeling. Because I felt sour during a game, and then I felt really bad about the fact that like I'm sitting here feeling upset and feeling like I don't want to keep playing this game, and I feel like I'm bringing the mood down for everybody, but I can't help but feel that Calico has fucked me, and that this pretty little quilt that I've made for this cat is evil, and I don't ever want to play this game anymore. So I can be a very sore loser, but it very much depends on whether or not I feel like it is some core element of the game that has ruined me, or whether or not I have just made a huge error.
You want to be culpable for your loss. Like you don't want it to be arbitrary.
Yeah, I know it's super recent, so I won't talk about it too much. But like, if I ever lose a game of Flip 7, for example, it is because I know that I have kept pushing my luck and the deck has punished me. And the deck has a great sense of humor for doing that. And I want to feel, when I lose those games, I don't feel bad about it because it's silly fun. And like, the games last maybe half an hour. But if I'm like playing a strategy game and I feel like a game mechanic that I do understand but has ended up with like a poor dice roll, and as a result I am ruined, and now I have to like sit here knowing that I've lost for
randomness is such an interesting one. We talked about this recently, Tom, of just like on one hand randomness can alleviate a lot of just the feel bad of something like chess, where you just feel like you're just incompetent or you're incapable of competing with somebody that in that deterministic setting. On the flip side, you can have randomness that's so random that you feel like you worked really hard on something for hours, and then all of a sudden a dice roll dictates whether or not you win or not.
Yeah, like chess to Monopoly on a spectrum.
Right, exactly, yeah. There's that sweet spot in between where you get my new favorite term, ego crutch, which is something used in conjunction with randomness. And, oh, well, I just lost because there was an unlucky moment. But on the flip side, when you win, you're like, yeah, that was all skill. That's a really beautiful and nice thing that you can have in games when it's done correctly, which is you can create this level of agreement or favorability with losing, because at the end of the day, like most games, only one person at the table is going to win, so you have to they have to handle the not winning and being bad to a certain extent in a way that's elegant or favorable for most people that play them.
One thing that I do really enjoy is like when a game gives an out for like the player who's in last place, where you can have kind of like a bit of a Hail Mary. I think a game that immediately jumps to mind is The King is Dead. A game like that where you go into it, you have a plan, you're all playing with the same information, you're all playing with the same cards. It's like, okay, I have been outmaneuvered here. However, now what I can do is I can switch up my tactics so that rather than trying to win by having the most control over the Scots, which is what I was aiming for, but now Scots have just been like completely destroyed by the Welsh and the English, what I can do instead is I can root for the French and try and sow instability and win through that angle. And there have been a number of games where I've been playing that and been like, oh, I'm losing. There's no way that I can win this. I've gone completely buggered unless I sell out my nation to the French crown. And I've done that a number of times, and each time it feels brilliant, baby. Each time I feel great about doing it.
Yeah, The King is Dead. I think it's a fascinating game. It feels so different from the perspective of 3-player to 4-player. I've only played one game of it at 4-player, but it was explained to me that you play individually when you do 3, but you play as teams when you do 4. And I can't imagine that it plays at all similarly between those 2-player counts.
No, I've only ever played it with 3 people, and I've had a fantastic time each time. I think it's the game that I break out whenever it's like, oh, there are 3 of us? Cool. We're playing this, and then we can play something else afterwards if you want.
Yeah.
Going a little bit back earlier, it sounded like you were saying you get more joy from failing at a game, realizing it was your own dumb fault, as opposed to the game just fucking you up the ass. Like you'd rather just have made a egregious error. Is that what I understood?
Well, first off, I would never say no to something fucking... No, I'm not going to go down that route.
Maybe it's a bad analogy, yeah.
Actually, literally yesterday, I was in a hostel in Whitechapel because I was in London to see my friends play. And I ended up playing chess with someone who had like a pretty high elo. I don't know what elo stands for, so that I think speaks to my skills as like a chess player. I tried really, really hard. I lost both the games. The first game I was playing black, and I do a lot better when I'm playing black. And I know that I made certain errors and the such, but I had a really long conversation with her afterwards being like, obviously I lost. What did I do wrong? What can I learn from? And like she very kindly like reset the board and put things in the right order, and then said, okay, so this is where you took this, and this allowed me to then open up this file, and by opening up this file I could then prepare an attack on your back rankers, and like explaining that stuff, and I felt like I learned a lot from it. So like that's one element of like, if you're bad at a game and you're willing to learn how to play it better, it can be a great way of like developing your tactical brain. Absolutely adore that. But in the other angle of like being bad at a game when it's just fun, like, you know, losing game flip 7 and the deck just like fucking you, and that's a bit funny. But you've also got, when I was talking about like King's Dilemma, I have a distinct memory of playing one of the rounds. Again, the conceit of the game is that whoever wins each session of the game, their scion becomes the new king. And then that family in the next game obviously has the roleplay element of, I'm actually the cousin of the king, so ho ho ho, or whatever. But they get some token benefits to that as well. There's like nepotism that exists in the court. Who would have thunk it? And I remember the previous session to the one that I'm describing, I had won. My ancestor or my cousin was the king, because you get to play new characters each time. I was playing this kind of like playboy character of like, we're the prosperous house and we have the crown at our disposal as well, and like, you know, and I'm talking about all the money that I've got because I had a lot of money to start the game with. And then a card came up, which was a betting card. It was like you reveal it, there's a tournament, and you can bet your coins on it. Coins are things that you can use to like bribe other players and encourage them to vote in your direction. And then you can use them for things like betting, but you can also use them for things like, buying material for armies. And then you get prestige points based on how much you contributed to the war and all that stuff. So like it's useful and it's a valuable currency, literally. Mm-hmm. And my character just bet it all, just like was like, oh, well, I've got so much money, I might as well. All in. And like that was a character element, but also me as the player was like, well, I've got a shit ton of money. I can double it here quite readily and be like set for life going forward. And I lost everything. Immediately hardest loss, the worst possible result came up. I was completely fucked. And then for the rest of that round, I was like literally begging, both in character and out, begging my opponents to give me money. Be like, I'll do whatever you want. I will vote however you want. I will scupper my own plans. I need money. Because if I don't have money, there's this other thing, I can't remember what it was, but this other thing will come up. And if I don't have money for it, I'm going to be even more fucked than I presently am. And I managed to just scrounge together a couple of pennies and pay my way through. And then I lost that round. I lost that session because I was exclusively focusing on not being poor. But then the next session which came up, I got to play the character of this like really frustrated and angry descendant who knew that they came from a noble house, but also knew that their grandfather had lost the family fortune.
I like resented their grandfather.
Yeah. And so I got to play this character who was this like conniving, miserly bitch. It was so fun. And just like, and not accepting anything from anybody and just going my own way. And part of that was like my experience as a player being like, I know what happens if I am trivial with money in this game, so I'm not going to do that anymore. But it was also this element of the character, and it was this building, and that character could have only come about as a result of a previous failure. It's one of the things I love about watching my players when I'm DMing, watching my players fail, is that you see it in the moment of their eyes when they first make that failure of like, oh, I have to think about what happens when my character doesn't do something that I want it to do. I was playing D&D with my family over my birthday because I turned 30 at the beginning of February.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My back hurts immediately. But I was DMing for them, my mum, my dad, and my sister, running a one-shot for them, and watching each of them when they made their first failure, watching each of them and asking each of them, okay, so you've tried to do this, hasn't worked. How hasn't it worked? And then sort of sitting back and thinking, okay, what does it look like when the character that I've built, when I've got these ideas for these grand notions, what does it look like when they fuck up? And it's really interesting to see how people fit that's still trying to like say something about their character, but in a negative capacity. I love failure in that capacity. It adds so much texture. And I think King's Dilemma is a great game to fuck up in. As well, it's got that kind of the king is dead angle of if you have consistently failed, if your whole family's point is like being prosperous, like the one that I picked was, and like, you know, the kingdom doing well, and you keep mucking it up, you can pivot as the legacy game goes on and start trying to like undercut the kingdom